a sudden, United States, from a friendly nation, which helped us to defeat Nazism, turned overnight into a deadly enemy. And it was very shocking.
What's up?
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Well, let me turn down the bullshit here. So what now?
So happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Been a busy week, huh?
It's been a little busy, yeah. I have not heard anything back from Jake yet. He's also been busy, I guess, trying to get settled in.
Is what it is.
As soon as I do hear something more, I will pass it along. How was your week and weekend?
Um, Week was a little odd. Gave notice at my current role, getting ready to start a new job. One that actually pay.
What?
Yeah. Got an offer for a role that pays quite a bit better. Health insurance and all the things. Not great. Still
Excellent.
well below what I moved to Texas for, but a step in the right direction nonetheless. So
Excellent, excellent. You've been hoping for that. That's good.
that's been a victory. It's been a victory. Uh, Trying to wrap it up and hand it off without like leaving them in too big of a mess. It's grossly understaffed, grossly overloaded, and the people that are there aren't really equipped to pick up the ball and run. So it's not really. But that's what that is. Leadership made those choices and got them in that position, and now we're there. So that's what that is. Uh, Took the boys go karting last night. Not to the little whoopsie doodles go karts. These are actually like semi-pro go karts, I guess. The slow versions are running about 45 miles an hour. The fast versions ran about 75 miles an hour. It was intense. So that
Hell
was,
yeah.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. The fast go karts ended up, the middle kid didn't understand the two strokes actually have to warm up. They work kind of like, they're essentially like giant model airplane engines. They're running on nitromethane. They got to get hot
Yeah.
enough to, the heat is required kind of like a diesel engine for them to function correctly. So he flooded his out, and then I overflogged the shit out of mine. I'm a big guy. Me on a go kart is a lot like a Donkey Kong situation from Mario Kart, if you're familiar. I really kind
Yeah.
of maintain momentum, flog the shit out of it, smoke the clutch. Uh, so we didn't get all of our laps in on the high speed machines, but it was still a good time, nevertheless. Had some pretty good lap times. This is one of those places that actually takes fastest lap, tear lap, average lap, and then ranks you against every driver that's ever driven there before.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, there's a
That's
little.
very cool.
Yeah, let's see if I can pull that up here.
You said Diddy Kong versus Donkey.
Yeah, it was.
So he's a Bowser.
Yeah, I was definitely Bowsering the fuck out of it on that. There was a couple of spin outs where I ended up doing some straight Bowser shit. I was like cutting across the green space to avoid the wrecks and pileups and shit. I figured out about
That's funny.
I don't know, lap 10 or so, that the normal way of driving this is not the way to think about this shit at all. Like, how to play this game is to literally just mash it. And these are the 45-mile-an-hour carts. Mash it, just keep it mashed, and you're literally just stabbing the brakes as like using the brakes as like a handbrake, if that makes any sense. So you're just changing your vector with the handbrake, which is the foot brake, and then yeah, just never let off the gas. That's what that is. Oh, let's see here.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It was cool. It was cool. So sharing this over here to you so you can see it.
All right. Let me log out of this real quick.
Can you see it?
I've had a pretty intense week myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up, Tommy? Hope you had a good week, buddy. And Arlen, Heeman, and Haley. And Cherry. What's up, Cherry? Hope you had a good week. I guess I
cool.
could show this
This
for
is your
everybody to see it.
Laptop.
Yeah, can you still see it?
I can.
Okay. I'm going to try and push it over here to the other streaming services since there's like multiple now. I've been looking into Twitch. How can I oh, I picked the wrong one. I chose poorly. Looking how to do Twitch. I'm doing pretty good. Got a new job starting not Monday, but the next Monday. Doing right, Cherry? Doing good this week? Yvette. What's up, Yvette? I chose poorly. Streamlabs, the books. Yeah, it's not going to let me do this, is it? I got all the books, but it won't let me do like anything else, so I'm just going to have to... Sorry, my dudes. Yeah, we're not going to share that. So we'll just, yeah, so looking at the lap times and stuff, I'm Kafka's Caveman, just like the Discord handle there. Oldest son is Spanch. Youngest son is Trent. So his best lap time was 83.9, 84.8, and mine was 83.3. So fat old guy, race one, kicking ass. Now, mind you, these guys are like literally like half my weight. So, oh no, this is race 3. But yeah, you can see like where your rating is, and then by your performance, they rate you up and down. The gap from the leader, 3 seconds behind the leader. I don't understand this motherfucker right here. Wild Bill at 14.1 seconds. How is that even possible? And everybody else is running 70s and 80s. 41, 44, 69. These make sense. I mean, this is like incredible. 71 seconds. I'm not sure how they do that, but 14 seconds. I don't think that's possible. That's got to be a lie. You still there?
I'm listening, yes.
Listening, yes. So how was your week?
It was rough.
Rough.
I lost 40% of my portfolio this week.
That is
46%.
poop snacks. Was it all, thanks, Jerry. Was it all based on pissing around starting World War III volatility?
Yes. So, oil stocks were really doing great on Monday. They started taking off pre-market hours.
Yeah.
I was watching them, and I found this stock. And I'm not going to name any names just now, but I got into it pretty heavy on a pullback. It looked like just a normal pullback. And it's my mistake for not trading on news, but I knew that the news was kind of market-wide, or at least sector-wide.
Yeah.
And it started knifing down. So I averaged in as it came down because it looked like it had found support.
Yeah.
And that support was very short-lived, and it knifed down even harder. So I averaged in again when it looked like it found support again, instead of cutting losses, because I had already lost quite a bit. I'm kind of hoping to cover. And it fell underneath the short attack pretty hard. At least I think that's what happened. But it was definitely some algorithmic stuff happening. And
Never.
I was I'm just gonna hold it. I'm just because at that point I had a fairly large position, and I was just gonna hold it because at that point it was trading at below historical prices. And I'm like, and this is not a bad company. Like it's actually a very solid company, and they make oil transportation and recovery equipment. So like the derricks and the ships and the trucks and stuff. So I held it through Tuesday, and it looked like it started to recover some, and it was almost getting to where like I could leave out with a tolerable loss. And I guess, like I said, I don't understand enough about it, but I guess shorts really wanted it low, or there was some liquidity going on, or some margin calls happening. I don't know, but some sort of algorithmic stuff happening. It pushed even lower.
They had a whole bunch of puts to cover.
So it really went down something like 34% below historical lows.
Wow.
So I'm still holding it. And especially with what happened over the weekend, I'm hoping that Monday morning it'll get a bump. We'll see.
We're gonna
I'm not letting go. I got diamond hands on it for sure.
diamond hands. I think we're gonna see quite a lot of volatility over the next, probably the next 3 to 5 years. It's gonna be all over the place. But the next month or two is probably going to be pretty extremely volatile. It'll be above average, I think.
Well, all eyes on the Strait of Hormuz right now.
All eyes on the Strait of Hormuz. I'm not so sure about the Strait of Hormuz. I think if
But
you had
that's
to
their only
place
way to retaliate.
one place to watch, I think, in all honesty, the most interesting and the most telling place is going to be Shanghai, Beijing.
Well, sure. No, don't get me wrong. I mean, regional wise, right. I'm talking country specific as far as Iran goes. Syria, of course, watching for the Houthis and their proxies that they have.
Yeah.
Um, definitely, but you're right. Definitely be paying attention to what China says.
And what China
China's
does.
definitely not happy because we basically flew over their backyard to get there, um, to do our little drastic and unexpected landscaping.
Landscaping.
They,
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Landscaping.
yeah, we pretty much demolished a mountain for them,
You know,
terraformed, drastic terraforming exercises.
what was that? The Texas temper that the North Koreans fired on it, and they were like, "Hey, let's go ahead and make the mountain go away."
That's what we did, pretty much.
Yeah. To wit, somebody else in the battle formation was like temper. They took out. I want to say it was like a handful of artillery pieces up on a mountain. They removed the mountain.
Well, China's definitely not going to be very happy about it. Um, it was really a lot of the analysts and the talking heads that were like, "Oh, it'll never happen. That Fordow's too deep. Um, we'll never get carriers close enough. Um, it would take too many planes to do anything worth, like we kind of stood up for a moment and showed them that the U.S. doesn't give a fuck about what the analysts and the talking head thinks. That it doesn't require a carrier. Not that I'm not shitting on carriers. Of course, carrier force projection is huge as far as global sea power goes.
Sure.
But it does not. The United States does not require carriers to reach out from Missouri to hit anywhere in the world.
Yeah. And then
Carriers are not necessary. Carriers not included
in the
for that.
Korean War, the USS Wisconsin famously responded to a direct hit from a battery by firing its 16-inch guns, effectively removing the battery and the mountain underneath it. The escorting ship then signaled to Wisconsin with the message, Temper, temper.
And that's what I've been trying to tell people. You know, there's a lot of talk online and in the think spaces about China has more ships than us, and they have carriers that are on the east side of Japan now, and we should be afraid or we should be scared. And I'm like, you just don't quite, like we talked about
Understand.
last week,
Yeah.
you don't quite understand that the United States has been doing this for a long time. And have we been,
It's the one thing that we're
slacking?
really fucking good at.
Yeah, we've been slacking on our shipbuilding, and in our shipyards. We've been slacking on
But
probably
the
some
tonnage of the
maintenance.
shipyards it's not the, doesn't really matter, dude. It's like saying,
No,
I got 50,000 chihuahuas. All right, I got an Abrams tank. Doesn't really
yeah,
fucking matter.
no.
You can have
And this is
all the
not the first time.
chihuahuas you want.
This is not the first time in history that China has made this mistake. Uh, in the 1800s, in the 19th century, famously, Japan and China were at war with each other, and China had a huge fleet
They did.
with a bunch of brand new ships,
They did.
more numerous, highly technical. What they lacked was the experience and the expertise. Japan sent them to fucking Davy Jones. They whipped their ass bad
They did.
because you can have all the equipment in the world, but if you don't have the experience and the leadership and the understanding or the sea readiness, that doesn't matter. If your crews aren't prepared, not only that, but China has a huge, you mean, talk about corruption issues. China has a huge corruption issue. It's hard for them to even keep leaders at the top for the plan, because every time somebody gets up and starts getting into some sort of power or something, they get removed quite frequently because there's
They
so
had an
much
opinion.
fear
Yeah.
of opinion, right, of opinionated leadership, and it requires opinionated leadership at the head of a fleet.
It does.
You need
Yeah, they
opinionated
need
leadership and
autonomy, and it
experience.
needs to be a flat structure, which China's not capable of. The completely vertically integrated structure gives them some real latitude. Their ability to move on power plants, perfect example of that. Their ability to say, no, motherfuckers, we're building ships, perfect example of that. But on a battlefield, it
Right.
needs to be a flat decision tree with the people at the front making the decisions. And China also doesn't have the battle experience. They've got a lot of academia,
No.
they've got a lot of parades, and they got some neat stuff, but they don't have any war experience. And that
Well,
matters.
they have shipping experience.
They do have shipping experience, quite a
They can
lot.
float it along. They can float a ship along a well-traveled shipping lane, but China does not have what I like to call deep water experience or deep water experience under duress, naval duress, and that's probably the worst term for it, but it's a term I've heard before and I like to use. But a ship under duress is in waves or in sea states that are at or near at or above what the ship hull is designed to operate effectively in. And if you don't have an experienced crew, when you put a ship into those sort of sea states or in that deep, deep water, when you don't have that sort of easy reach back for resources, reinforcements, replenishments, and so on,
You're going to have a
then
bad
the
time.
crew and yeah, it really puts a test to the crew. And this is part of the reason why, sure, they're 100 miles east of the coast of Japan, but that's still technically like that's pretty much coastal waters of Japan. They're hardly past the shelf.
Right,
They're not in deep, deep waters. Certainly not in the North Pacific
right,
where things get icy.
right.
And I had some people argue, well, oh, they're sending, they just did a port in Djibouti. Well, you know what? You can fucking raft your way to Djibouti pretty much because you can hug the coast and get there in those coastal shipping lanes, and it's not a big deal. Now, China's pretty good at sending large hold ships through coastal, shipping traffic. They have the ability to do that, but they're not being shot at. They're not being hunted from beneath the surface of the water. They're not, trying to launch planes. They're just tying down shipping crates and hoping that they get there. It's a completely different ball game. It's a completely different environment, in my humble opinion, as an armchair quarterback. I really don't know that much.
As an armchair quarterback.
Um, they don't have it. They simply don't have it, and equipment does not a Navy make. Sailing experience a Navy makes and requires. So, and we're talking about Navy, but let's look at the air superiority. They got their 6th-gen fighter, woohoo. Most of it was copy and paste of stuff that we created 20 years ago.
Right.
So, look what we just did. We just flew across the Pacific, refueled, and got ready in Guam, which was, remember we talked about Guam last week,
Yeah.
and that being a gateway to the region, remember?
Right.
And then they flew right on into Iran, leveled a mountain of 3, and came on home without a scratch. The United States still is the foremost military superpower in the air and at sea, and I would go so far as to say on land, as far as troops go. Again, China has a larger army than we do, but as far as experience and leadership on the battlefield, that is to be seen.
Yeah.
Uh,
They'll meat grinder the shit out of it, but I don't think it's going to be, even if we were to get in a kinetic foot war, it's not going to be, it'll be really, really bad.
when it comes to land warfare, if like we wouldn't have a cakewalk walking into China, and China certainly wouldn't have a cakewalk walking into the U.S.
No.
But when it comes to airspace, we would just demolish them. I'm not saying we wouldn't have losses, and I'm not saying there wouldn't be casualties, but we would demolish them.
Yeah.
And at sea, we would probably, I mean, again, there might be some losses, and there might be some casualties and some consequences, but we would still sink them. We would absolutely send them to the depths by the droves. The United States still
It would be
is
catastrophic.
the apex global military superpower on the planet. There's nobody stronger. There's no two countries that can come together and be
The
stronger.
top 10 can't come together
And
and do
the
it.
world has forgotten that because we did not demonstrate that in Afghanistan. We have not demonstrated that since the mid 90s, whenever we took tanks
Yeah.
and a
Desert
line
Storm.
and drove them across Iraq,
Yeah.
and we just obliterated everything in front of them, and they went from the border to Baghdad in a matter of days.
3 days. It was over. And they could have gone
That was the
faster.
last time. Yeah, that was the last time we really demonstrated to the world what we were capable of as far as that kind of thing goes. I mean, and I was there first. I was on deck for the retaliation in September, and actually early through early November on the USS Enterprise when I firsthand witnessed what our carriers are capable of and how quickly you can empty a fucking carrier of all the bombs. And it happens pretty fast.
It does
I
happen
mean,
pretty
23
fast.
hours a day with 1 hour maintenance and FOD walk down and refuels and stuff like that. The other 23 hours of the day is nonstop catch and release. The planes leave full, they come back empty.
Right.
And those pilots have certain number of targets that they're looking to get, and then on their return home, they're looking for what they call targets of opportunity. Hey, I see this. This looks funny.
They have any
Can I
munitions
strike it?
left? Yeah.
Sure.
Burn your munitions. Go.
Go ahead. Because you can't land with bombs on the plane. You have to land empty. So they go out, they hit their targets, and if they have anything left, they look for targets of opportunity and targets of interest.
Light
They
them up.
get a quick, approval, a quick green light, and they just fucking blow the shit out of everything. So the world needs to wake up, and I have a bad feeling that Iran's gonna do something dumb, and that previous administrations might have, the restraint not to retaliate twofold. But the current administration has a history of when they're slapped, we would prefer to slap back 5 times as hard. We weren't even slapped, and we leveled 3 mountains for Israel. So
Well, they did
If
try to push 2 assassination attempts, and they failed. So I mean, they tried to slap him.
they tried, and I mean, if they do something dumb, like send some stupid fucking homemade missiles into some of the military bases over there in the Middle East, the it's not gonna be good. And I don't see de-escalation in the future. I mean, diplomacy is not in the near term. I don't think. So, like I said, watch the Strait of Hormuz.
I agree.
Iran might try to blockade the oil shipments and other shipments that come out of the Gulf there. That's like their one real fucking card they have to play for us. Might fire up their proxies. They're probably going to see Russia and China come out and say some stupid shit about how the United States is a meanie and a bully, and everybody should not like the United States
That's why I
because
say
we did
watch
unprovoked.
Shanghai. They figured out that they produced, and I'm sure this was not a strategic oversight on the part of China. They produce all of our goods and they produce all of our medicines. Domestically, we produce all of our food, so we're good there. But there is quite a lot of shit that is critical that we depend on them for. So I'm saying watch their ports and the shipping traffic. It's already slowed down. I don't think,
Absolutely slowed down. They've already cut off entire fucking sections of raw minerals and rare earths.
yeah. Well, that got
Deficit shit.
eased up with the tariff nonsense. That's come back largely, but since our mountain removal, our landscaping effort, as you put it, ships have stopped moving. Every
So
minute that passes that something catastrophic kinetically doesn't happen is good. The longer we can go without kinetic response, the better. But there will be retaliation. I think it's largely going to be. I think Russia is going to do something optically. They're going to try and bolster their machismo, but I don't think there'll be anything other than saber rattling. I think China's going to do something
well,
economic, but Iran's the wild card. But every minute that passes that
Russia,
nothing happens is good.
I could see Russia destabilizing further the conflict in Ukraine, pulling back any progress that was made in negotiations of peace there. And I guess like you, I agree with you on China, economic, grandstanding in front of
Yeah,
the world. Sure, I can see that, and I definitely can see Iranian proxies doing some
the
real dumb
Iranian
shit. They've
proxies
already,
and terrorists are, I think, is going to be the largest liability at this point.
right? But as far as manufacturing and stuff goes, I think for whatever audience we do have, and for anybody that comes across this in within time frame, just like we shouldn't forget what the America I know is capable of militarily.
Hmm.
We also shouldn't forget what the America that I know is capable of in times of crisis, especially when it comes to manufacturing and meeting the needs of people, like what happened in World War II. Because America went from 0 to 99 in a matter of days and weeks when it comes to wartime efforts and manufacturing. And if you don't think that the American people can come together and overcome, yes, it takes 5 years to build a factory this way and it blah 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 blah. That's under normal circumstances. If it come down to it, America was like, oh shit, this is a requirement. We must have these things for our people, like medicines or whatever. Look what happened with COVID, which I'm not a big fan of, and we can talk about that till we're blue in the face. But look what happened. Will it be the best? Maybe not. Will it be adequate? Yes. And we're capable of coming together as a country. The moment the United States as a people sets differences aside and focuses on a singular thing, there's no other country that can do it like what we can. That's just the case. The American machismo and the American fortitude still persists in this country. It may be weakened, it may be hidden, it may be behind the curtain. We may have our own fucking issues. It's like a house full of brothers, right? A house full of brothers that are all pissed off at each other over the Xbox, or pissed off at each other because somebody ate somebody else's leftover pizza or whatever, and they're fighting and yelling and calling each other names.
But
But the
God
moment
forbid
somebody
someone
kicks in
else
the door,
wanders in.
right, then all that shit gets forgotten.
Yeah.
For the time, we'll set that. We can pick that up later. But in the
Now he's
meantime, we're
got
gonna
all
fucking handle
16 brothers on your ass.
it. Yeah, and we can tackle anything in that sort of a scenario, and as a country, and the world should not forget that. But most importantly, American people themselves should not forget that. We should not forget what we're capable of as a country and as a people, and what we're capable of in times of crisis and in times of fear. And yes, there's a lot of bullshit people you can read online, but a lot of that, a vast majority of that, is disinformation and malinformation bullshit that's being pushed on us from people overseas, making you feel inadequate. It's not true inadequacy
Well,
or true degeneracy.
a lot of it's even our own internal, the military-industrial complex. So we've got a whole litany of people trying to accomplish these ends for an entire litany of reasons, and not all of them are useful or, I mean, they're useful to them, but they're not. They don't align with what the American people want, long term or short term. Aren't necessarily in the best interest of the American people, long term or short term. But they do have the strings, and they are pulling them to try and accomplish their ends. And to that, you're seeing a lot of propaganda to all those ends. There's just absolute chaos and nonsense. Speaking of chaos and nonsense,
We just, yeah, we just need for people to realize who we wake the fuck up and realize who we are, what we're capable of, and what matters most, and we'll be fine.
huh?
We will be fine.
What's going on, Jamie? All right. So for this week, any more thoughts on the world situation before we pivot?
No, I wish I had a magic 8 ball, but I don't.
Magic 8 ball. So other than the shenanigans in the markets, any other victories or challenges you're dealing with this week?
We had a couple deaths in the family. This actually one this morning and one about 4 days ago,
Sorry, brother.
which I wasn't super close to them.
Yeah.
So, but it's my dad's side of the family, which makes four in the last month.
Wow.
It's been rough there. We were going to do a family reunion today, but we didn't. So that got canceled. And that's about it, really. It's been quiet. It's been hot.
Yeah, it's been warm.
It's been very hot.
It has been warm.
Yes, very, very warm. Heat index is blowing to the hundreds.
Our humidity is finally starting to drop off, thank God. Um, all the moisture that's been baking out of the ground finally starting to back off a little bit. It's been intense. Ciao. Anything I can do for you, brother?
No, just continue to be my friend, man. That's all I need.
Right on. All right, so verse of the week this
Hope
week.
that this stock recovers.
It will. It's going to be chaotic for a while, Bubba. It was 6:22. This week, 6:20 was the um, summer solstice, where the sun is directly overhead. I think it was actually 6:19 at 9 a.m., depending on where you were in the world. Longest day in the northern hemisphere. So, if you're looking at the coin, there's 50 blue boxes around that. That's a division of 360 by 7.2, which is exactly the number of degrees that old boy found the Earth was, and sending somebody here and somebody there to measure the planet. They measured it on the solstice and determined the circumference the first time that we're aware of. There's some evidence that by the dimensions of the pyramid, they figured it out far sooner, but the first documented case that we're aware of that they calculated the circumference of the Earth based on the shadows cast from sticks on the solstice. John, verse of the week, John 15:13. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down their life for their friends. Speaking of World War III. Context, this is part of the Jesus discourse with his disciples during the Last Supper. He is discussing the importance of abiding in him and bearing fruit. Jesus asserts that there is no higher expression of love than laying down one's life for one's friends. This refers to selfless acts of sacrifice, even to the point of death. This refers to friends. This refers to those who are close to us and whom we care about deeply. Personal applications: love selflessly. Be willing to put the needs of others and their well-being in front of your own. Be prepared to make sacrifices, even difficult ones, for the sake of your loved ones. Look for opportunities to serve your community and make a positive difference in the lives of others. Forgive those who have wronged you, even if it requires great sacrifice. Forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. Forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. One more time. Forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. Love your enemies. Extend love and compassion to those who oppose you and persecute you. Key takeaways. The ultimate expression of love is self-sacrifice. We should be willing to lay down our lives for those we love. Love involves putting the needs of others before your own. Additional thoughts: Jesus' sacrifice on the cross is the ultimate example of this kind of love. By following Jesus' example, we can demonstrate true love in our own lives. John, I want to say 19. The new commandment I give you, to love one another. Maybe it was 16. It's right in there somewhere. Anyways, new commandment I give you, love each. John 15. Here we go. John 15:17. Well, actually, we're going to back it on up here a little ways. 15. 15:16. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you, so that you might go and bear fruit, fruit that will last, and so that whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give you. This is my command: love each other. He goes on to say later, love each other as I have loved you, which includes that sacrifice that he was talking about. Got any thoughts or deep wisdom on that one, boss?
Not at the present, I don't. I think that's pretty deep as it is.
That's a pretty heavy effing mouthful if you look at it just superficially. So tonight's topic from Book of the Brother, gotten into the personal growth and mastery section. So we're getting out of what is a human male and getting into living as a human male. Personal growth and mastery is kind of a start of a whole shit ton of skills that I think are pretty useful in being human. This one is the science of learning and skill acquisition. How to be an autodidact. This is probably the single, I don't know, I would vacillate between resilience and skill acquisition as probably the two that might be the most important skills that I've come across. What do you think, Aaron? What are some of the most important skills you've experienced or found in your life? Highest value?
As far as learning,
No, just any skills.
learning how to listen and learning not to say, I already know.
Ooh. can't put anything.
One of the biggest things like I try to teach my is when somebody tries to tell you something, the worst thing you can say is I know, because you don't know. You think you know, but you don't know. A different perspective is always different for a reason. Now, if I said something like, well, by the way, 2 plus 2 is 4, you might say, I know. And that, okay, well, I'm going to be quiet now. And you don't know that what comes after that is some profound insight or whatever. Like, I know that's silly, 2 plus 2 is 4, but don't just say, I know. Let people speak all the way through. And don't be afraid to ask questions that you think you already know the answer to.
Can't put
You learn a lot by asking questions that you know the answer to.
can't put anything in a full cup. So that kind of comes back to humility, maybe.
Well, it's not just humility, but patience.
Patience.
So, like, how many times have you heard somebody be like, I know, I know, I know?
All the time,
And
man.
it's not even human. It's because they don't want to take the time to listen. It's a patience thing. It is a hubris thing, but it's also a patience thing. There's a book that it's a Japanese thing. It's the origin of Lean Six Sigma. It's called Kaizen.
Kaizen, the life of continued dedication and improvement.
Right?
Toyota
And that comes.
has a series of 3 books, I think. One of them being that.
I suggest that anybody who wants to do self improvement check into that. The the art of the good ideas. Art of good ideas. And Lean Six Sigma too. That's good stuff. You're in production.
Well, anything. It's really learning and problem solving is what it is. It's just applied in a industrial framework. All right, so for tonight, the science of learning and skill acquisition, how to learn new things. The only constant is change. One of the most important things you can do is be able to change. The ability to learn new skills effectively and efficiently is one of the most valuable assets anyone can possess. For men, a time when career trajectories, personal growth, and relationships are in constant flux, mastering the art of learning can lead to greater success, fulfillment, and personal mastery. The science of learning and skill acquisition is not only teaches us how to absorb information, but also how to master new habits, build expertise, and continue evolving throughout our lives. This section explores the neuroscience and psychology behind learning, offering practical strategies to accelerate skill acquisition. We will examine how the brain processes information, how new habits are formed, and how we can leverage this understanding to enhance our personal growth. Understanding how to acquire new skills, it's essential to first understand how your brain processes and stores information. The brain is remarkably adaptable, or plastic. This property is known as neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections in response to learning experiences. When we engage in learning, neurons in the brain communicates through synapses, strengthening or creating connections as we practice new information or behaviors. The more we engage in a task, the stronger these connections become, which makes the skill more ingrained and automatic over time. However, this process is not instantaneous. The brain requires time, repetition, and focused effort to build these connections. Studies have shown that skills are not just learned through passive exposure to information, but require deliberate practice and feedback to truly master. The stages of learning a new skill. Unconscious incompetence. In this stage, you are unaware of your lack of skill. You might be unaware of the learning curve required to master the task. This is where most people are when the Dunning-Kruger effect is kicking their ass. Conscious incompetence. At this stage, you recognize your limitations and the complexity of the skill. While this can feel frustrating, it's the first step toward improvement. So at this point, you learn enough to realize you don't know anything and that you suck at it. You learn enough to know that you suck. Conscious competence. Here you can perform the skill, but it requires focused effort The task still requires concentration, and you're still making a lot of mistakes along the way. That's most of the building phase. Unconscious competence. At this stage, the skills become second nature, and you can perform the task effortlessly, often without even thinking about it. Everything is kung fu. Understanding this.
Everything.
Yep. Do you have anything else?
No, I'm listening. I'm agreeing with you. I apologize. I'll be quiet.
Oh no, I'm hoping you'll add, dude. I'm hoping you'll add. It's, understanding this progression is key. Is key. It's easy to become frustrated at conscious incompetence phase, but recognizing that this is a necessary step in the learning process can provide motivation to push through. My brain is not working tonight. So, in the learning process, a whole lot of people start off with the unconscious incompetence. You see one or two YouTube videos, and you're super excited. This is going to be super awesome. Learning guitar, learning karate, learning how to speak a new language, learning anything. Learning how to trade, as Aaron is finding out. You see a new skill, and you think, oh, this is going to be amazing. It's going to be easy. Then you hit the conscious incompetence phase, where you've gotten past unconscious incompetence, and you realize that you suck and this is hard. This is where most people quit. It's about this time where most people realize you have 3 to 5 years of doing this thing a lot for 3 to 5 years to get kind of good at it. And the people that are really good at it have been doing this thing a lot for like 10 to 15 years. And most people quit.
This is where having foresight when you go into something new
Yeah.
can help you a lot. Because on the other end of the spectrum is the imposter syndrome,
Yes.
where you have zero confidence in something new. And with the imposter syndrome, you struggle to learn just as much as you do with overconfidence. And so, really, it's a mindset of going into anything new that you learn. The mindset becomes this is going to be new. There are going to be challenges. There's going to be things I don't understand, and there are going to be things that I do understand. And you don't want to hold yourself like it's like setting your own bar
Expectations.
in the midpoint,
Yeah.
right? You don't want to set your bar too high and be like, I'm supposed to just come into this brand new job and within 2 months I'm supposed to be fucking king. And you don't want to set your bar as I'm going to go into this new job and everybody else that works there is going to be a fucking idiot and I'm just going to teach them everything they don't know. The key is to know going into something, just like you would prepare yourself for a journey. You're going to pack water. You're going to pack some extra food. You're going to put blankets in the car. Well, you should, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're going to drive across the country, it doesn't matter. To expect the unexpected, you're going to put blankets in the car, some extra water. You're going to have a roadside travel kit. You're going to have some things just in case.
Sure.
Because you're preparing for this journey.
Spare tire.
Look at your way and so on and so forth.
Way to
right?
change the tire.
Sure.
Change the socks.
And you have to look at learning something new or changing your experience in the same manner. And you don't have to know what's coming. You just have to prepare for some things that are likely to happen along the way or could happen.
I think he.
And when those things do happen, you don't blame yourself, beat yourself up,
Freak out.
or quit.
Yeah.
You reach back into your tool bag or into your emergency kit or into your water, you grab your blankets, and you persevere through. Because if you go into it expecting these things, then when it happens, it's not unexpected.
Not that big of a deal. I think you nailed it with the expectations. The Buddhists talk about expectations a lot and how they're the primary cause of suffering. Most of what we encounter isn't really all that much suffering. It's our perception of it that we're suffering, our perception of what we thought it should be versus what it actually is that causes most of our suffering. And like you said, if you set your mindset at the beginning, set your expectations correctly, it's really not that big of a deal. Just keep going. And if you're prepared for it, as you suggested, then it's really not that big of a deal at all. If you have a change of clothes, getting a little wet one day is not really a big problem. If you got plenty of water, the journey taking a little longer than you thought, not a problem.
Well, learning is the same way.
It is exactly the same way.
Yeah, and then also like that's one of the things that I pride myself on, not to be overly egotistical. Is when it comes to learning something new, I have this developed my own way of learning something new. And I start by learning the things about it that are so basic that you might think you already know. And I build my expectations of the learning experience from there instead of trying to look at the end point and trying to build my expectations of the learning experience there. Because even if it's something simple like teaching myself calculus or teaching myself a new language or learning trading, I go into it with the understanding that I know nothing. I know absolutely nothing. Even if I think I know some things, I go into it with the mindset I know nothing. And what are the first things that I need to learn if you know nothing? The very basic fundamentals. Even the stuff that seems obvious, even the stuff that seems like common sense, take the time, take the effort to go through those things first. Because there could be things that you miss. It happens in our modern school district all the time. I
Oh,
see it with my own kids.
yeah. This.
They take these kids, especially in math, and they bring them from one grade to the next. And by the time they get to middle school, they've missed some of the fundamentals. And those fundamentals are key for learning the new stuff. It happens in algebra, especially. Kids get to algebra and they lose their minds because they've missed some important fundamentals.
Yeah.
Because the teachers aren't teaching broad-based fundamentals; they're teaching pass this test, get this answer,
Yeah.
right? They're teaching from the result down instead of from the beginning to the end.
So I actually approach it. I totally agree, but I approach it learning new things slightly differently. So when I'm going at a new thing, I try not to take any preconceptions for a long time. I'll just literally start wading into shit, and then I start building a mind map. And I go into a new subject for probably the first, if it's, let's say, something extensive like a new discipline of theoretical physics that I haven't played with before, or a new technology that I'm getting exposure to. I'll go in, and for like the first 30 days, I don't try to, um, I don't really try to synthesize anything with any kind of significance. I'm literally just mapping the space. So I'll start on a keyword, and then I'll kind of branch out from that singular keyword, and I start compiling topics, and then try to understand how all these topics work together. So for the first 30 days, all I'm doing is literally mapping the space, and then from the space map, trying to understand what the progression of information is. Once I get the space map and the progression, then I'll start. This is where I think I need to start, and then start moving through. And I do go to the root. And the reason I do that is there's been several times where I thought I was at the root, but I wasn't at the root. And I spent a long time, like a year or two, developing an understanding. And then, just like you said with the math, I had to go back and relearn all this shit because I didn't take the time to find out what the root actually was. Does that make sense?
Sure. Well, the key to that is the moment you find yourself not understanding something,
Yeah.
instead of trying to understand what it is you don't understand, try to understand why you don't understand. Now that sounds confusing, but there's a huge difference between trying to understand what you don't understand and trying to understand
Why? I
why
don't understand
you
it.
don't understand,
Yeah.
right? Because the lack of understanding most generally for people is not a lack of ability to understand, it's missing information.
Right. There's an information
And
gap.
so, right, and understanding that the why is there's an information gap. And then instead of trying to understand something brute force, you circle back, like you said, and pick up and fill in that information gap before you move further.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen. There's no matter what you learn, there's always going to be places where you find information gap. And it could be something small and almost meaningless to you at this point, like in your journey. You could be 5 steps into it and you're like, I really don't understand that. Do not make the mistake of saying, oh well, I'll pick it up later.
Yeah.
Because you don't understand it means you don't know what other future items are built upon that foundation.
And not having it now will skew your perception and your perspective and your understanding. So when you do need it, you won't have it and you won't understand that either. It,
Right? And it takes longer in the future to circle back than it does now.
yeah,
It's more efficient to circle back now and just pick that up
start at a broad
than it is to
base at
wait.
the foundation, build systemically, be patient,
Right?
be diligent,
Correct.
be deliberate.
Be deliberate. Even the smallest details that you think are meaningless. It's what happens. That's the whole premise behind the Dunning-Kruger.
It
Is
is.
that people don't even realize what is meaningful and isn't meaningful, but they think they do. That they skip things and they don't realize what they're skipping is a huge part of some portion of the future learning process.
Or critical understanding.
Correct. Absolutely.
The more you learn, please don't, for those that are listening, watching, please don't feel like this is some monumental undertaking. It's really not that hard. Once you've done it, doing it the first time, just like we're talking about learning anything, learning to learn the first time, especially given the pattern that you've been taught before, as Aaron said, memorization, regurgitation for test, is not learning. Learning to learn takes time, it takes practice. It's not, it doesn't come naturally to most people. Learning to think takes time, takes practice. It doesn't come naturally to most people. And you've been taught essentially antithetical behavior, behavior that is the opposite of what learning thinking is. Once you learn to learn, the more systems you learn, the easier it is to learn a new system because you have something to relate it to in your head. It's like this. Because it's like this, you can understand it. You're only having to map the deltas, you're not having to map the entire new system. I hope that makes sense. The role of the.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. It's you're not memorizing
Yeah.
things. Rote memorization is a great tool for passing tests in the short term,
In the short term.
but it is not. In the process of learning to learn, you learn how to ask questions
That's
instead of regurgitate facts. And that is the biggest tool in learning how to learn is learning how to ask the right questions.
one of the biggest tools in
Learning
life.
what what questions to ask yourself or whoever is teaching you and in such a way to get the information that you need back from them. And the answer is the question is never almost never what will be on the test.
Einstein said if he had an hour to solve a problem and his life depended on it, he would spend 55 minutes deriving the question.
I heard that Einstein guy's pretty smart.
He's pretty intelligent, so I understand. The role of deliberate practice in skill acquisition. Deliberate practice is the key to acquiring expertise in any field. Unlike passive learning or mindless repetition, deliberate practice focuses on improving specific aspects of a skill that are still undeveloped. It involves breaking down the task into manageable chunks, receiving feedback, and making continuous adjustments. This is literally what I just said is literally how to learn music. So, been in band, been in marching band, been in a rock band, done choir, done musicals, done speeches and lectures. I've given speeches and lectures up into the 30 and 40-minute range. All of those things is literally breaking it down into pieces, rehearsing that piece until you get it how you like it, adding a piece, rehearsing those two pieces together until you get it how you like it, adding a piece, rehearsing those three pieces together until you get it how you like it, adding a piece. Then once you get to a section, get some feedback. Somebody that's good, somebody that you respect that does what you're doing, ask them to take a look at what you're doing and say, hey, any feedback? And then don't take it personally. Just take it as feedback, as input, constructive criticism. Don't get all in your feels about it. They're trying to help you. Let them help you. According to psychologist Anders Ericsson, deliberate practice involves the following elements: setting specific measurable goals. The goal should be focused on improving a particular aspect of the skill, such as improving your speed or accuracy. Speed drills, accuracy drills. Anybody that's ever learned to type knows all about those. Consistent practice. Deliberate practice requires regular and consistent engagement with the skill, ideally in a focused, uninterrupted session. You're learning to type, you're doing it an hour a day every day. So, just quick rule of thumb, 20 minutes a day every day makes you pretty good. An hour a day every day makes you exceptional. 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours a day every day makes you world class. That's what the Olympians do. That's what the NBA, NFL, those guys are 6 hours plus a day every day dedicated to what they're doing. Seeking feedback. Feedback is essential for identifying areas of improvement or making necessary adjustments. Coaches, judges, teachers, mentors, master and apprentice relationship. Stepping outside your comfort zone. Deliberate practice requires pushing yourself beyond your current capabilities, which often involves making mistakes and learning from them. Michael Jordan used to take shot after shot after shot after shot after shot. Kobe Bryant took shot after shot after shot after shot. Initially missing a lot, later missing very much less. But they kept taking shot after shot after shot after shot. Yo-Yo Ma, world famous cello player, still practices hours a week. For example, if you're learning to play an instrument, simply practicing the same song over and over may not improve your ability significantly. However, if you focus on one technique at a time, like finger position, timing, or rhythm, and work on it consciously, you will see faster improvement. In drumming, percussion, there's a thing called the American Standard 40 rudiments. And really, those break down to 5 or 6, depending on who you ask. My profession, my supposition, is that it really comes down to one. It's called a paradiddle. And from that one rudiment, you can learn to play pretty much anything with the drums. If you can get that one rudiment up to about a 200 BPM, accurately, consistently, mastering one skill gives you the foundation for all other skills. That's not true for everything, but you get the idea. The process of habit formation involves the following steps. Hold on. I skipped a whole step there. Aaron, you got anything that you'd add on the seeking feedback or anything about deliberate practice?
Oh, it goes right back to what I was saying earlier about learning to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
Right.
Ask the right questions of the right people.
Of the right people, correct.
So a lot of learning comes down to habits. Your influences become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your life. Learning is a habit. How you learn is a set of habits. Let's talk about a little bit about habit forming. This is actually kind of a long section. I wonder if I shouldn't break this up. I think we'll finish this. This makes sense. It all runs together. This is what I was talking about the other day. I think some of these sections, this is really so much like looking at the rest of the content on the internet. I'm trying to give like entire intellectual understandings as a set for synthesis. The internet is like cue, the trigger that initiates the behavior, and that's it. That's the whole thing. I really think I should probably start breaking stuff down like that. They'll do a half an hour on just that, 15 minutes on just that.
Well, two things. I'm probably not going to be on till 10 tonight. And second of all, I think that our sections, for future reference, compound into complication very quickly. So, just learning about how to learn and to set a foundation and so on and so forth, and then going into building habits, while they are related,
Yeah.
they're not correlated in the same space.
So it's habits are necessary as part of learning and skill development, but it's essentially an additional or adjacent idea, not necessarily in the same strain of thought.
It's like apples and oranges. They're both fruit,
Both fruit.
but they don't taste the same,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. So maybe more delineation. I think maybe it needs to be even more delineation than that, though. I'm not 100% sure on this. Probably should have stopped at like,
Well, this is where we should reach for feedback to the audience.
yeah, I have been, but nothing yet. Been trying to get some. That would be wonderful if I could get some feedback. About the only feedback I'm getting is like the amount of engagement on the videos, which is going up in general, and it's starting to skew towards some things. I'm starting to make some improvements. Shorter is better, to the point is better, bite size is better. That really seems to be like the common theme of engagement. Bite size, actionable things. So instead of like this entire chunk of shit, it'd be unconscious incompetence and why that's important. That's it. In less than 45 seconds.
Well, it's less than 45 seconds to us or to you because you've already compounded minutes and hours and days of understanding into that statement.
It's true.
And that's where the expansion and the expounding upon the idea comes from. Like talking about learning how to learn, and you go and explain like learning a language. What's the first thing you do whenever, like, the first thing I learned when I learned French? You learn your ABCs and your alphabet, you learn your numbers, you learn how to count, right? You learn very basic statements, right? You build on this foundation and you learn grammar and the concept of gender and terminology and stuff.
Sure.
Well, you could say all of that, and when you first learn French, you start with the basic ABC 1, 2, 3, or you could break it down into these are all the different things, and it really just depends upon the audience that we have and what they're interested in and how detailed they want to be. You know, is our audience looking for a reminder, something that they probably already know? Is our audience looking for in-depth guidance? And I mean,
I think most,
the internet does not like guidance too much, but
yeah, that's something else I've noticed. Like if it's me saying it, it's not as well received as the AI saying it, even though it's my words. I think it's because it's a person. It comes off as like preachy or something. Like I'm trying to say that I'm better than or something. I'm not 100% sure on why. But if it's some,
well, what's hidden behind the words is the years of fucking up and the years of
yeah, that's,
experience and mal experience that it comes to reach this conclusion.
yeah,
That a lot of that gets plowed over when you get up on a podium, just like a teacher,
sure.
right? If you've ever been under instruction from somebody and they get up and they present some concept or idea to you, what isn't presented always is the years of experience and struggle and tasking that it took for them to be able to stand up
And say
and
this,
say that.
yeah. The 20 years of trial and error and failure.
Right. And that's really what this channel is about,
Yeah,
is for people to not realize, for people to realize that is there is no gain that doesn't come without trial and error and loss of the game. And these sort of things are all natural progression. And we've really, especially in our society, this quick fix, give it to me now sort of society, especially with AI now that you can get anything at your fingertips.
yeah.
The concept of the really earning information, right? I think that's a great way to put it. Earning information that you have is lost. If I can't get it in a 2 minute clip, like my somebody, I won't say exactly who in my family, but somebody in my family once said, "I'm gonna buy a helicopter. I've made enough money. I think I'm gonna buy a helicopter." And I'm like, "Well, you're gonna have to pay somebody to fly it." And he's like, "Nah, nah, I'll just watch some YouTube videos." And it's like that. That's the new way of thinking. I'll
Sure.
just Google it. I'll just watch YouTube videos. I'll just do the, and that's fine and dandy if you want to, like, change the drain in your sink or fix a leak. But when it comes to learning, or it comes to something that is existential in your life, it doesn't work that way.
Well, so we're talking about learning, right? Even with the practice, like you can read all day on how to do a paradiddle. You can read that, you can watch that video 1,000 times, but until you've done it 1,000 times, you're not going to really understand what it means. And there's
No.
no way you're doing it with any kind of speed or consistency. Every single skill is that way. Every single thing
You
you
know what's
learn is that way.
a really good skill for this, as an example, is cooking.
Cooking. Yeah.
You follow a recipe, but that does not mean you're a cook.
Yeah. Yeah, grandma gives you the recipe for your favorite dish that she makes. You try it the first time, tastes like shit.
Yeah, but you follow the
You
instructions,
follow the instructions.
and the reason is because you don't understand why certain parts of the recipe were put in there to begin with, right?
Yeah.
Like, what makes the dough rise? What? Why do you put sugar and salt in the same?
At this time, and then again
Way?
at this time.
Why do you turn the heat up and then down, right? Like that
Do I really need to wait?
and cooking.
Yep.
But you see a video online in some short, and it's like, you take 2 cups of flour and half a cup of milk and 2 eggs, and then bam, cake, right? Like, it's like, okay,
Baking is very much chemistry, which is very much timing. So much of cooking is a collection of perfect moments. You have to
Yep.
do something to a perfection, and then you have to stack those little perfect moments. When you're savory cooking, good.
I love a good cook. I love cooking. That's one of the things I love is when it comes out. Like my main thing is like, how's it taste? I always everyone like, how's it taste? I
Sure.
love cooking, man. So Aaron, I got my mold test back.
yeah,
No black mold, but I do have a kind of mold that coincidentally creates fungus balls in your lungs.
Cool.
Awesome, but it's actually is pretty cool because it'll go away.
That's good.
So yeah, that's what's been causing my illness.
Yay.
Um, so yeah, yay. So now I need
it's
to
good to
sell this
know.
place and leave. I'm allergic to it. It's non-toxic to some, but toxic to others.
It's good to know
Yay.
for sure.
So anyway, yeah, welcome to the stream, right?
There's a
Shit,
product
but
out
yeah,
there called
how's
RM86, which is pretty damn good at
okay?
killing all funguses. Then there's another two products, Foster's 4040 and Foster's 4020. One is clear sealer, the other one's a paint. Really doesn't matter which one. They're both fungistatic, fungicides, so they'll kill and prevent any recurrence. So the RM86 will
Well, I know
kill it.
where it's being. Hmm. Can you use it in the AC unit? Is the question. The AC unit has to be cleaned out.
Yeah, I don't know about that. So I've used them in
Yeah,
construction.
that's the problem.
I've used them in hospitals and schools. I've never used them in HVAC.
We believe in kills around here. I don't know where you're from, but
Well, I tell you what, I've been looking for like the past 2 months trying to figure out what the hell I've been coughing up. Like it's been weird, right? Like scary weird. And then I went to the hospital and was able to finally tell a doctor what was going on. When he saw it, I thought it was just a mucus ball plug, right? Some weird thing going on in my lungs, like some kind of. I didn't know what the hell it was. When the doctor saw that with the pictures, he said, "Hey, you're allergic to mold." He like knew right away, and it's like, huh? So I'll go and test the house for mold. The 3 places in the house that have mold, the laundry room, which is where the highest concentration is, which is where my AC's at, in my wall, kitchen and living room. None in the master bedroom, none in the master bathroom, or anywhere else in the house.
Well, that's good.
Well, that's a good thing. That means it's really originated. You know, you can kind of see that pattern. Like it's kitchen, living room, laundry room. So, and the majority of it, like the petri disk, is talking to me in the laundry room.
So
So I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean to come in and change it up, but I was like, oh, hallelujah. That's what I've been doing. That's why I was late.
no, you've been sick for a long time, dude. I'm glad you found the source. So, but what's the source of the
Fuck,
mold
yeah.
in the laundry room? Do you have like a broken water pipe or something somewhere?
Well, AC unit. So we have about a 10-year-old AC unit that sits in the wall. So if you're in a mobile home, some of these mobile homes have these units where they have the blower outside, and in the wall, you have all the condensers and stuff. So it drips. It has a water pan under there that I'm guessing
Is not draining correctly.
I'm probably gonna. Right, it probably needs to come in and have it maintained, but I'm still selling the fucking place. I'm not, you know what, this is going to be a recurring problem. And also it's supposed to be it happens in swampy areas, Aaron, coincidentally.
So Arkansas.
60%, yeah. Well, put it like this, the more foliage and dead plant life there is, a higher likelihood of this fungus is to grow. And that's what I live in, a freaking swampy area. So that's why 12 miles in either direction, I never had an issue.
Huh.
Moved here right away.
Really?
Within 2 months, I've been like this for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when you travel, it stops.
Does it help, ex-smoker? It settles down. Well, here's the thing. Once I was in the hospital for 6 days, and my last 2 days I was pretty much good to go. Right, health-wise, I was still weak, but I had breathed the best I had breathed since before I moved into this house. Got here within an hour, started clogging up. 3 weeks now, I'm back, and I'm starting to cough these things up again. They're starting to come back. It's not the same as it was, but you can tell that it's starting to rebuild again. It feels like I'm kind of going back down that road.
Yeah.
So I have to get out of here. Just plain and simple. Got to. And there's actually medicine they can give me too. So once I get out of here, they can give me the medicine and I'll clear up and I'm good.
Cool.
So that's we'll find out. I got to do the official test, but I'm almost positive I know it's going to come back now. It can't be a coincidence that exactly what I've been seeing and feeling and going through is exactly. And by the way, I used ChatGPT to help me confirm what I thought it was on my book that I have with the mold testing. I was like, I'm not sure. ChatGPT's like, yeah, it says, yep, okay, we're good.
I don't know that
And then it gave me an images.
you can get like an 80% solution with that thing, man, but it still comes up with some bullshit.
Oh, it does. Well, I went with what my eyes were seeing in the Petri dish with the book they give me to identify it. So I was like about 90% sure this is what I'm seeing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's definitely, it's green and bluish with a white outside, which is this. It's a penicillin derivative, or whatever the mold is for penicillin, but it's one of the more toxic ones to people that have COPD or just allergic to it. Yeah. I'm allergic to penicillin, coincidentally.
Well, there you go.
Right. That's like, And then once I was like, and then all the symptoms in the book sound like me. I put it to ChatGPT and it said the exact same thing. And I'm like, yeah, that's feeling pretty good. Solid now. Feeling pretty confident. And then they showed me images of it. And I'm like, yep, that's my special little guy right there.
Special little guy.
Yeah. So, yay. Now just.
What about bleach and water? Just soak your AC.
I think I can do that. I'm gonna go look and try to attack it, but I've been wearing a mask, and what's weird is I wore a mask all day because I was doing dusting. And as the more longer I wore the mask, the better I was feeling, the better I was breathing, which was total opposite.
95 or higher rated masks could be rated for mold spores. You can actually get.
Yeah, I got an N95.
You can get a respirator that's rated for mold. If you're gonna do the bleach thing, I would not add water.
Yeah.
Generally, most of your bleach is going to already be pretty watered down. And you're going to need something, because when you start spraying, dude, it's going to get so intense. It's going to burn your eyes and it'll burn your lungs. and you should really,
Hmm.
have some place you can go for a
What's
night.
oof?
Because for you to get it high enough for it to actually be effective, it's like it's like
Right. I'm gonna probably call an AC team to come out and just work over the. Yeah, I need this clean. Da da da. It's gonna cost like 150
yeah.
bucks. They come out, do a full clean and renovation on that inside. I've been putting it. I had it happen 2 years ago, but they didn't clean the inside. They just checked it, looked at it, said everything looks good, and gone.
Also,
So I think that's going to be a priority.
there'll be two different like classes. The guys that service the thing and check the pressures are not going to be the same guys that clean the ductwork. Are not going to be the same guys that do mold remediation usually.
Oh, there's the other question. I'm guessing if it's in the ducts. I mean, you can limit it, but if it's in the ducts, it's still going to kind of, it's still
You're
going
gonna
to.
have moisture in the ducts. I promise you, 1,000%.
Yeah, so it's probably throughout the damn duct work. I wonder, there's probably some special way to kill it, but you probably can't be in the house for it. I'm
That's
gonna
what I'm
guess.
saying. If you get the chlorine up high enough, it's like shocking a pool. You got to get it up high enough that it kills it. It's going to kill everything, and that will
Okay.
include you if you are not prepared. It will burn the shit out of your
I-
eyes. It will burn the shit out of your lungs.
And another thing that was weird, I looked at, they were showing x-rays of people with the fungal balls in their lungs. It looked exactly like my x-ray did for my pneumonia. Why they figured you couldn't, they're like, well, it looks like there's still this spot here. This won't go away.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's kind of all, dude, this is a long time coming, dude. I've been trying to figure this out for a year.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that this is what it is. And that explains why in the winter it kind of settles down a little bit. And then in the spring, it freaking fires back up when it gets moist.
Yeah, when it gets warm enough for the spores to start flying around again.
Yeah. But right now I'm with it, and that explains why they can't. They were trying to figure out. They're like, well, it don't seem like COPD. You have some symptoms. Don't seem like asthma, but you have some symptoms. They couldn't. My doctor had no clue. He was just guessing.
Yeah.
And all the steroids did for my lungs was help me cough up the balls every now and then a little bit more, not realizing that I thought it was like COPD or some shit. He's like, yeah, but that's not normal. It's like, that's not how that goes. So yeah, man. Anyway, there's anyone, if you're listening, mold sucks.
So
Yeah.
Steve's been learning and doing skill acquisition on mold.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm somewhat of an expert now. Just. Oh Lord. What was the topic tonight,
Learning and
guys?
skill
I
acquisition.
do apologize. Let's get back. That's hilarious. Well, guess what? Sometimes you got to learn things you didn't realize you were going to
You
learn.
know, becomes quite important to be able to learn new shit.
Absolutely. And that's part of it. I've been helping the doctors diagnose myself.
Dude, sometimes, man, it's getting a little sketchy out there. See a lot of doctors consulting Google right in front of you. Bro, I can look at Google.
Oh, dude.
What are you doing?
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, I'll tell you what, the thing I liked about this is weird. Usually in the ER, you're not very confident in your doctors. You're like, yeah, you're just another guy. You know what I mean? Like they really don't have that intimate relationship. The doctor that I had come in there, he came from Hot Springs. Excellent doctor, dude. He even saw some spots on my back he said, well, do you have cirrhosis or something wrong with your liver? And I'm like, no. I barely drink. I'm relatively healthy until this shit's just kicking my ass. And he says, well, we need to run those tests. Well, he comes back, and this is the same day that we kind of showed him the what I thought was a mucus plug.
Yeah.
And he said that it's the mold thing. Well, he comes back the next day and says, hey, those weren't liver spots. Those are symptoms of mold disease where you have an allergic reaction. It looks similar to liver spots. And that's when it was like, oh, it's all started to come together. And now I do the mold test and all that. You know what I mean? It's 1 + 1 + 1. Oh, hey, that works. That's 3. All right, let's go. So yeah, it's a hell of a way to do it. It took 2 years.
Well, at least you had the tenacity and the abilities to learn and figure it out.
Yeah,
And the time to figure it out.
A
lot of people don't have that.
The time, well, no, and also just the ability to, you talk about skills, man. the skills that I think we've all, we got this skill learning is just a want to, honestly. This right here, I had no choice because it was affecting my health. And honestly, I believe it's going to kill me if I didn't figure it out.
Well, I mean, I think
So, the necessity.
all skills are kind of a necessity, right? That was like, so on the screen,
Yeah.
we're looking at a fire. That was like one of the first major skills that made us humans. The skill to be able to make fire, the ability for us to learn from other monkeys making fire to make fire.
Facts.
Yeah.
You ever stop and think about that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
first person didn't make fire; they
They
found
found
fire.
fire. Yeah, that's right.
They would have had to have learned to preserve fire before they learned how to make fire.
But if you've ever like carried a fire bundle and you've ever nurtured a fire back from a coal, it's not a very big leap from nurturing a fire back from a coal to making fire. Making the first
Mm,
coal would be a challenge, but if you're starting from just an ember to get back to a fire, you've learned most of the skills.
right. But making a friction fire using sticks against yourself, like, you have to really stop and wonder where did that leap come in?
That
I guess just feeling heat and thinking, well, it gets hotter the more I rub it.
they had a lot of time on their
Can
hands. They didn't have to worry about paying the
did it?
mortgage. They didn't have TikTok to check. They didn't have social media or cars or
And then
restaurants.
a Flint's fire, like spark fire, is even harder to. I don't know. I'm not an expert in history of fire making, but it really does make your mind think, and it's a great thing to go into. Like you're talking about, we're talking about learning skills that exist.
Yeah.
We're talking about learning skills that have already been learned by other
Yep.
humans, and we're trying to
Monkey
pick up,
see, monkey
right?
do.
Versus
Facts.
the first person to create a skill,
Yeah.
the first person to start fire, the first person to use a rock to break other rocks, to nap, right?
To
Like
nap flint. Yeah.
to nap flint, which probably had some help in making fire. Like, oh, flint sparks.
Nap and flint and steel didn't happen until carbon steel was much later. Um, um,
Yeah, but flint on flint will also spark.
are you sure about that?
Yes. Flint and stone will make a fire.
Maybe
Will make a
if
spark.
we got something with a higher iron content, maybe.
Well, I can promise you flint and flint make spark. We used to do it as kids.
Yeah. I napped a lot of. I was in the Boy Scouts. We napped a lot of flint. Made a lot of arrowheads. I don't know if I ever saw. We had to do flint and steel. Had to do. I guess I never.
Look it up. Flint and stone. Spark. Google that shit.
Jamie, look it up. Where's Jamie? God damn it.
We need a verification process here on this damn podcast. We're some fly by night organization. I'll
We
look it
got
up.
sponsors. You can strike
I
flint
mean, I don't know.
rock against another stone or other hard object to create sharp edges, which will enhance your ability to make good sparks with the stone. High carbon steel works best because it is soft and produces large sparks easily. So yeah, apparently it's all kinds of shit. You just need something hard and something with iron in it. And that's pretty much it.
Told you. Flint and
Told
stone. When we were
you.
kids, man, we sparked that shit. It was cool to us.
That's
We were some heathens, though, when I was a kid, not gonna lie.
we played with fire probably
My
more than
cousin.
we should.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Stop,
might have
stop,
started
stop.
some that I didn't work. You probably, yeah, maybe we're not going to talk about the alley.
Not gonna talk
How
about
about my brother? He was 8 years old, and his friends decided they were going to take a cup full of gasoline and go underneath the trailer
that. That was
and
exciting.
light the top of the gasoline, thinking it would burn like a kerosene lamp.
It did not.
and it did not burn like a kerosene lamp. And in fact, it caught not only the boys on fire, but most of the underskirting and the house under the trailer on fire.
That was an exciting day.
It was an exciting day. Yes, yes.
Things were learned that day.
Yeah,
So,
me and my cousin,
Yes.
we used to make. We took the aluminum cans from my grandpa drinking a lot of Miller Genuine Draft beer, and he had the pull tabs, right?
yeah,
And we would take rags or paper towels and stuff them down it because we had gasoline on the farm. We had
sure.
farm gas in a big tank. So we put a little gasoline down in there and stuff the rags down in there or whatever, and fucking light it on fire and throw it and pow, that was fun. And then one of my cousins got the great idea that that bang wasn't loud enough, and we have a jerry can here. How big will that bang have? Like,
Fuck around and find out science.
and we found out real quick. At one point, I can remember running through the shop with a paintbrush that was on fire. And I just remember running through it with a paintbrush on fire, fire everywhere.
We did similar experiments with various cleaning chemicals and aluminum foil. Once we found the hydrochloride reaction, we stumbled on a gallon of 50 or 55-gallon drum of said cleaning chemical. Strategically acquired and relocated it, and then performed the experiment at the 55-gallon drum stage or scale.
Yes.
No,
Do not try this
do
at home.
not try this at home. The cops will show up.
They will 100% show up, even if you're rural.
Yeah, yeah. We got
That's like
we got some attention.
it's like neighbor bought a big propane tank, one of them big ones, 250-gallon propane tanks, whatever that you have filled up like every 3 months, or
Yeah.
whatever. I was gonna cut it in half, and make feeders out of it.
Didn't fill it full of
And,
water first before you started the cutting process.
No, it didn't fill it full of water. Heard it for miles to the point where it showed up. Everybody showed
Was he
up.
okay?
Yeah, he's fine. It blew the end out. It didn't catch till towards the end. I don't know if he didn't have enough oxygen or whatever it was, but it didn't catch towards the end.
He's lucky he's
He's fine.
alive.
Couldn't hear for a while, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure. Lucky if you ever heard again. Yeah, so skill acquisition, fucking around and finding out. I'm willing to bet that's probably how the fire thing happened. That's probably how a lot of our early skills happened. Cooking, I'm willing to bet, was probably accidental. We didn't realize it until somebody left. They left the game by the fire, or they found an animal that had been in a fire, right? And they ate it, and it was like,
In a fire,
yeah, it had been in a forest fire, because brush fires used to happen all the time. The Aboriginal populations all over the world, and I don't just mean the Australians, did burns on purpose every season to keep the entire world from burning at one time. Some Aboriginals in Australia and some Native Americans used them as part of their hunting practice. They would actually use the fires. And turns out there's an eagle. The fire eagle in Australia also uses fire as part of its hunting practice. Which is a little...
What?
Yeah. Yeah, didn't know about that, did you?
That is did not.
So, bird in Australia uses fire to hunt. Bird in Australia.
I knew that there were some primates that they have studied that have started to use tools. I've never heard of a bird using fire.
Yeah, dude. So the orangutans are copying humans and making spears to fish. Raptor species in northern Australia savannas really do spread fire to smoke out prey. This behavior has been widely seen. Raptors flying around by the thousands in some cases, said Mark Bonta, lead author on the paper published by the Journal of Ethnobiology. They see smoke and they're on their way. Australian firehawks use fire to catch their prey. So they thought the firehawk name was, for the longest time, was just some local Aboriginal bullshit. Turns out it's not. And they're not the only species that does it. Certain birds are the fire followers that will take advantage of fires, Bonta says. They perceive smoke and snatch out flushed out animals, but a few raptors actually actively disperse flames on their landscape to obtain food. Their reliance on a fire challenges the conventional notion that only human beings can wield it, he said, and it casts light on recent research suggesting that birds have higher intelligence than was previously thought. Yet this fire manipulation could be put to other birds on the savannah in jeopardy, Bonta said. Since European colonization, he said, cattle ranchers have suppressed fire to protect livestock, including legally shooting species resembling firehawks. Possibly rare birds like letter-winged kites, Elanus scriptus, and square-tailed kites, Liphocintia isura, and peregrine falcons, Falco peregrinus. But yeah, long story short, firehawks actually spread fire on purpose, not methodological bullshit. Few other species as
That's
well.
crazy. That is super crazy.
So going from the Paleolithic primitive wrestling with fire up to including possibly learning from birds spreading fire to hunt, to the modern day learning and skill acquisition. We stand on the precipice of a massive change, a sea change in the world, a paradigm shift. One of Aaron's favorite topics, AI. Not just World War III, we've also got a paradigm change in civilization that is upon us. And it is knocking at our door if you're not paying attention. It is here. It will be coming in any second. We have the opportunity to stop it, but we probably won't. The ability to learn and acquire new skills is going to be critical for survival. Please pay attention to that. Learning a skill acquisition in the new world. What do you even learn? It's hard to articulate what to learn other than how to learn, because the landscape is changing faster than we've ever been able to experience it before as human beings. As fast as we understand.
That is what makes this so important,
Yes.
because the number one thing the person needs to learn is how to learn. That is the doorway to learning. We need not forget how to learn on our own. That doesn't mean learn how to invent, which comes from that. It doesn't mean how to create. How to learn is the number one most important thing a person can learn. It is the first thing. It is the foundation of all learning. It's learning how to learn. And we don't teach that in school. And on what you just said, as an addendum to, in the precipice of artificial intelligence revolution, our people, our kids, and even the adults that are using artificial intelligence in their day-to-day lives and in their work have been shown in recent studies to be in cognitive decline. Their ability to abstractly think, to cognitively reason, is in decline. And so now, more so than ever, it is important to learn how to learn without the assistance of artificial intelligence or without following instructions. Like, following instructions is good for a civil society, but following instructions is not necessarily the key to how to learn. It is formulating instruction. That's what makes you learn how to learn.
Formulating questions,
So
perspective, synthesis. There's a lot of different pieces and parts to that. How to think and how to learn kind of go
have
hand
you
in
ever written
hand. So,
have you ever written an SOP?
yes, many.
Think about it. Writing an SOP is formulating instructions. And those instructions are how to complete a task.
True.
So, formulating instructions for yourself on how to complete the task of learning something is the basic premise for learning how to learn.
Um,
Instruction number one, find the foundation.
I think it's one step before that. I think identifying the need, which I think is actually relatively tantamount to personal understanding as well. It's essentially the same journey. You start with the question, what do I want? Because you don't even know what to learn until you know what the outcome is.
That's true.
And I think just as in the understanding of the self, the why, and this goes back to asking good questions, right? The why is also important. So I want to learn refrigeration. Why? So I can be better at my job. Well, then what about refrigeration do I need to learn? How this gigantic fucking centrifugal ammonia system works. Okay, why do you need to know that? Because I need to keep that running so I can stay employed. And it'd be great to not kill myself with ammonia. So now you can start to learn how to keep yourself employed and not kill yourself or others with ammonia. Understanding the why can lead you to the how or the what, which then leads you to the how. And then your framework as you're elucidating is kind of the how. How do you learn?
Learning how to learn is so important for our species and our people, our generation and the generation coming up, because of all the information and all the knowledge to be lost, that would be the worst. It is learning how to learn. And I fear for that because it's so easy that when you want to know something or you want to learn something,
Yeah,
to just,
I'll
hey,
watch a YouTube video.
GPT, hey, Claude, hey,
Yeah.
YouTube, hey, Google, give me the step-by-step instruction on how to do this. And while that's great, you may be able to achieve an acceptable outcome. You're losing so much more in abstract thinking and cognitive consideration, cognitive reasoning. It's going away.
It is. And God forbid the real threat of the shenanigans with Iran, China, Russia. The real threat from a nuclear weapon is not necessarily large chunks of New York, Los Angeles, or Washington, D.C. disappearing and becoming radioactive. The real threat, and I don't know if y'all saw this, something came out of one of the Russian satellites yesterday. We're not real sure what the fuck it is. If they were to detonate,
Really?
yes, really. If they were to detonate a high altitude nuclear weapon over the continental United States, there's a thing that comes out of nuclear weapons at high altitude called an EMP, electromagnetic pulse. Our civilization is incredibly dependent on power.
100%.
Yeah. A high altitude EMP would affect over the continental United States. If you were to get to an altitude, I think it's 115,000 feet, you affect 2/3 of the continent, which would be enough to collapse most of the power grid, if not all the power grid, which gives us about 3 days. If you're reliant on Google to make your decision and no shit, you're kind of fucked. It's
Yeah.
going to be
Then,
super hard without power.
then you're going to be learning food preservation.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, at that point, no. Well, that's the thing. I mean, people lose their shit. Um,
It's
there's
hard.
people that don't know what to do without AC. Like right now, we're at 100. We were like 101 yesterday. And like the people would freak out not having AC. Just that alone.
Hope you got some strong magnets and some copper wire nearby.
Yeah, I mean, hmm, it would
That
be
here,
interesting.
you have a strong understanding of salt curing.
Salt
I guess that's
curing,
I
kind
mean, one of the
smoking,
blessings I have.
butchering, hunting,
Uh-huh.
seed collection,
Hey, finding
planting.
water,
Yeah,
water distilling.
finding and
You know, I
purifying
mean,
water.
yeah. I mean, I'm blessed. I have a what's it called? A well. So that's beautiful. But even though, like I said, you still got to purify. I mean, you could drink right from it, sure, but
well, you got to
purifying
get
is going to
water
be
out of the
key.
ground as well. That requires electricity, unless you have
Well,
a
not
pump.
if you. I got a hand pump.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that shit's set up. I'll go out there and start pumping, bro.
That's key. That's huge.
It's one thing
Yeah.
about Texas I don't like. And I was in the Midwest. And there's plenty of water everywhere. Texas, there's not plenty of water everywhere.
Yeah,
But
Texas.
yeah,
Well, that's a little
that's
dry
my
there.
announcement.
Yeah,
So
A little dry.
flora and fauna
Yeah,
is a
no.
little bit. Oh, there's so Texas is like there's like 7 different continents worth of geography down here, and not all of it is West Texas or South Texas, desert, high plains, blah blah blah. But it still ain't the Midwest, which is like borderline, as you were saying earlier. It's actually just swamps and hills. There's plants and animals and water effing everywhere, which is fine unless you're allergic to mold.
Well, yeah, well, it's okay if it's not swampy. So, like, it's interesting. Yeah, we're gonna find out exactly what strain it is because there's actually like 5 different
Yeah.
strains. It could be one, it could be them all, and it can be indigenous to areas, right? Or certain types of AC units. Nah, just saying, like pretty much like I said, yeah, that's crazy. Uh,
Legionnaires actually also causes those polyps in your lungs and is pretty common in improperly made
what is it?
legionnaires.
Legionnaires. What are those?
Legion,
Different type of mold or what?
I'm, I'm pretty sure it's a bacterial strain. Super common.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
super common in swamp coolers. It looks like mold clusters. Let's just look it up. So, like in the south, warm, humid areas, it was relatively common for people to get legionnaires. What is legionnaires?
Yeah.
Legionnaires' disease is a type of bacterial pneumonia caused by Legionella bacterium. It's typically spread through inhaling contaminated water droplets from a source such as showers, hot tubs, cooling towers, or fountains. Symptoms include fever, cough, muscle aches, headache, shortness of breath. Legionnaire's disease can be serious, especially in people with weakened immune systems, underlying health conditions. Treatment typically includes antibiotics. The term legionnaires also refers to a soldier in the Roman legion. Legionnaires disease X-ray.
Well, that's kind of like what I had is I had the pneumonia thing.
Yeah.
So, that's it's like I said, I went and that's part of what was weird about it. So part of my thing that kind of blew my mind was I got better that Sunday before I went. The Monday I went to the hospital.
Yeah.
Sunday I felt good enough to mow the lawn. I was like, I'm gonna go mow. I mowed. My day was good. I ate dinner, and then in the evening, like my body just crapped out, and I started coughing, and I didn't stop coughing for like 5 hours, 4 hours,
So Legionnaire's disease,
and then I coughed up a bunch of crazy
yeah,
shit. Ugh.
is a severe form of pneumonia that can be difficult. Can be detected on chest X-rays but the findings are not specific. X-rays may show patchy consolidations, often in the mid to lower lobe predominance. May include pleural effusions in some cases. But you need to do
That sounds kind of like what I had.
yeah. So check out the X-rays for Legionnaires. I'll put it in the chat.
I'm looking actually right now. I pulled it
There you
up. I'm with you. Well, like I said, and that's kind of my lower left lung was the issue.
Yeah. But given it's a water issue with bacteria, if there's mold, there's water, right? And if you think it's in the
Yep.
HVAC in the South, it was really common. Well, not really common. It was common enough that it's a known issue with swamp coolers, which used to be the flavor du jour before
Mhm.
air conditioners to cool with. And people get Legionnaires from them. They grow in wet.
Crazy.
Yeah. So you may check
See,
into that too.
it could be a combination. It could be a combination. Well, the question is the thing that's honestly that makes this unique is what we thought was mucus plugs,
Yeah.
right? Ball in the lungs. That's the issue. Like, not to be too graphic because it's kind of squishy. It makes me even kind of go ugh when I think about it.
Legionnaires is
If
going
you
to do
look
the
up what a
same
fungal
thing.
ball is, there you go. So Legionnaires would be another one. So as I talk to my doctor, which Monday I'm giving my doctors a call, be like, hey guys, tested. This is the mold that I'm showing here. I've got mold cultures here, and maybe should I go get them tested, give them to you
Yeah.
guys? What's the plan here? So, but yeah, that's interesting. Um, yeah, that's a good one because that's very similar. Now we don't have a swamp cooler, but we do have. What's up?
If you have moisture in your,
Say what? Oh, you ready? Okay. Sorry, continue.
if you have moisture in your HVAC system, it's going to be essentially the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. A combination. Well, the funny thing is, it definitely showing the mold that's there.
And the aspiration from your lungs
So, like I said, it's going to be interesting.
is the
Oh, dude, 100%. Like I can be sitting here and it feels like I get bronchitis all of a sudden, and I'll do my breathing exercises and it'll go away. And then, like, I'll just feel like something's building up in my I can feel it building in my
yeah.
lungs. I can't explain it. Like, it's a very unique, like I said, and then what the doctors were trying to figure out is like, we don't understand. Like, it didn't make sense to him because I don't have asthma
Sure.
attacks. I'm not sitting there trying to grasp for breath, but it feels like something's in my lungs, and it's making my lungs like almost like react.
Right.
It's really weird. So I don't know, and it's at first I thought we thought well maybe
Right.
COPD, but I'm not really having COPD
Yeah.
symptoms. Not having asthma symptoms. Now Legionnaires, I'm kind of curious now. How is that acquired
Just being in the same,
again?
just being exposed to the bacteria.
Breathing,
Yeah. So just like a mold spore is blowing around. Yeah.
inhaled
That's it.
inhaled by water mist,
Yep, click on it.
which it could be very possible when you're in there changing out the uh what's it called? You know what I mean? Maybe I had a little bit of both coincidentally.
Maybe.
That'd be very possible too, because if you're changing out those filters where it's that water's, kind of gathering,
Yeah.
very easily to get a little mist in the spray, and it doesn't take a lot to go into the air and sit there for a minute.
Nope. Long story
Okay.
short, dude, take care of yourself, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Okay, boys, I've got to go. I have a prior date. Skill thing. I will be there next Sunday full time, man.
Right on.
Hopefully, getting better every day.
Getting better every day. Have a great week, brother.
Every day. Yes, sir. I appreciate you guys. Love what you're doing, man. Later, guys.
Talk to you soon. That bird thing is fascinating, by the way.
The Firehawk.
Yes.
Yeah. So understanding that actually came out of there's a song called The Firehawk. Actually, I don't even know if it's called The Firehawk. It's this techno song that I heard, and it's actually playing clips of an old movie. Release the Firehawk, and ADD rabbit holes. I started going down this ADD rabbit hole and found this. And now it's in my head, and now it's in your head. Congratulations, you're welcome.
Now it's in my head. Fascinating.
Yeah.
I've often thought about bows and arrows.
bows and
making the leap
arrows.
to bows and arrows,
All right, so well,
which string, making string, or stretching guts.
well, the supposition is first we started with the spear, right? Which was just you got a stick, you stab it with a stick, you throw the stick. Relatively logical progression there.
Sure,
And
sure.
then the adladdle, little less logical. Now you're starting to get into some technical difficulty there. That's kind of a. How did you get to that?
That's leverage, right?
Yeah,
That's leverage.
leverage and you're starting to make complex tools. And then you're to your point, complex tooling. What is the series of circumstances that produces maybe the adladdle turns into like some kind of catapult thing, and then from the catapult thing, it's still several steps and logical leaps. And the other thing that happens that's interesting is the prodigious spread of it. So speaking of prodigious spread, what is the it's called the Thousand Monkeys or whatever the hell it was. God damn it, what was that? There was a what was the study that showed once monkeys get to a critical mass, the oh god, what was the study that showed once monkeys get to a critical mass, the skill spreads without seeing it?
According to Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia, the 100th monkey effect is an esoteric idea claiming that a new behavior or idea is spread rapidly by unexplained means from one group to all related groups once a critical number of members of one group exhibit the new behavior or acknowledge the new idea.
Have there been any experiments that prove the 100 monkey effect?
According to Open Source Physics at Singapore, the monkey and hunter experiment demonstrates that gravity affects both the
speaking-
projectile and the falling object equally, leading to their collision regardless
Speaking
of the
monkey
monkey's
effect,
release
I am
timing.
fascinated by the primate tool usage in Africa,
The
and Asia.
great apes entering their own Stone Age?
Yes. People are saying that it's mimicking humans, but is it though? Like, how many humans are around them using
Modeling,
stones?
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, is it? I'm sure there is some mimicry, but and if it is mimicry, then you get into some really interesting questions regarding mimicry because of like the mimicry of AI versus the mimicry of chimpanzees or orangutans. But that's, I mean, that's, we're talking about learning. I suppose that's kind of on par with our talk, but
No, it's definitely it's like an example of learning and adaptation. Great apes. While chimpanzees and some monkey species like capuchins and macaques have been observed using stone tools for a long time, they haven't entered a stone age in quotes the same way humans did. Their stone tool use, while sophisticated, does not involve the same level of intentional modification and technological advancement seen in early human toolmaking. Some researchers call the Stone Age, quotes, for these animals due to their consistent use of stone tools, but it's distinct phenomenologically from human prehistory. Well, I mean, at what point, right? Is it different than the Neanderthals or the Homo habilis? Sure. But what about the older versions of humans, right? If we go back a million years, how different is it really? Turns out the Stone Age isn't a most exclusive club. Chimpanzees, capuchin monkeys, and long-tailed macaques have also joined. Archaeological remains now document that they have been using stone tools in the past. Sea otters may be next. Ooh, that's exciting. and each primate species,
Yeah, they use the stones
yeah,
to break the shells open.
they do, and they get actually kind of choosy about their stones.
Yeah, they do.
Crows actually also fashion and use tools. What all species of animals fashion and use tools? Birds, fish, cephalopods, and even some insects. Cephalopods, fucking octopus.
Oh, that does not surprise me at all.
No, I think
Please.
octopus, octopi,
Octopi are very.
yeah, octopuses. Google wrote octopuses. Striated herons and other fish species have been observed using lures to attract prey. That's wild. Didn't know that. Ants are using sticks. Sea sponges. Dolphins use sea sponges as tools to protect their snouts while foraging. Dolphins also use puffer fish to get high.
Knew that one. That one I knew.
You know,
I didn't know the sea sponges was like a face mask, but yeah, I did know the drugs part.
yeah. Elephants use their trunks as arms to scratch themselves and manipulate objects. That's not really the same. Chimpanzees,
No,
gorillas.
I'm talking external.
Yeah. Taking something, changing it, and using it for something it's not usually used for. Scratching your ass with your
Tailored
arm or your
purpose, right?
trunk is not. This is not like a higher skill there.
Or even a branch. It's like that's like the lowest bar for tool.
Yeah. Really stretching it out there. Taking a step, stripping off the leaves, sticking the stick into an anthill to extract ants. Meh.
That's a bit. That's a bit further.
Yeah.
Right. That's a little further
It's a
along.
little further along there.
But taking a sharp stick to stab fish in a river is 100% toolage.
That's toolage. That's as I understand it, the orangutans are the only ones doing that. Orangutans are like scary smart. From what I understand, I've heard from multiple sources, they will tear you apart just to see what's inside.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity. Not personal,
The
just curious.
also the chimpanzees that have the tribal, the social tribal stuff, the wars, the chimp wars. Have you read about that?
I have. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the bonobos. They're the free love hippie versions of primates. Instead of wars, they have sex. Which is interesting that that spectrum exists. Have you encountered the bonobo before? Did I lose you?
No.
Hey, Aaron.
What is it?
The bonobo? It's a species of primate.
It's a what?
A species of primate.
And what does it do?
Instead of tribal wars, they have sex. So,
Oh, I heard that part. I didn't know that that's what you're talking about, like the species bonobo.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. No, I haven't heard of that before.
they're,
So they resolve conflict resolution through via.
yeah, to copulation primarily. It's their primary form of bonding, and it's pretty much how they deal with everything. Stressed, copulate. Excited, copulate. Happy, copulate. Which I guess is
That's
pro-
that's crazy.
probably less destructive and possibly more productive than killing.
Yeah. That's crazy. Animals are wild, man.
Yeah.
I know, like you said something about the crows. I've seen the crows like put stones in a glass of water to get so they can reach the water.
Yeah, those motherfuckers will problem solve. They're not just using tools.
Yeah, they are.
They'll fashion tools, they'll problem
They are
solve.
thinking.
Yeah, they're thinking. They are thinking. Crows will actually also lead wolves to prey. They'll work with the wolf packs.
For scraps.
Yeah. They'll show the wolves where the prey is so they can have the scraps when it's over. So if you're out in wolf territory in the winter and all of a sudden you see crows, be advised.
This is not the sign you were looking for.
These are hunting drones for the wolves. The wolves are coming. The crows are bringing them. Congratulations.
Did you see? There was a. Now this may be way off. This is probably. I mean, we're at 9 o'clock, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
fair
dinkum.
game. Somebody put a post up about how the orcas were wearing sea lion hats.
Orcas
And the
were
last
wearing
time that
sea
the
lion hats. What?
Look that up. Look this up. Orcas wearing sea lion hats, and it's supposed to be a sign for something of like war. Or
Orcas
something.
wearing sea lion hats.
Look it up, man. I think it's sea lion hats or some kind of some animal hat. I read it and
Dead salmon
I
hat.
immediately dismissed it. Dead Sam, that's it. Dead Sam hats.
This is the
That's it.
quickest way to clear out stuck poop.
It's dismissible, but it's up there with what we're talking about. It's out there.
Almost anything is possible these days.
Hold on, I gotta get through all the commercials.
It's supposed to be the last time that it happened. The last time that it happened was like the World War II or
Hold
some
on.
shit like that, or some revolution.
The orcas are throwing fish on their heads and carrying them around. And that's an unusual behavior for sure. I don't think we have any idea why this is happening exactly, but it is some kind of communication. This is something that is,
Get a kick out of it.
I would say, kind of frivolous.
Can you hear that video?
I cannot.
Okay.
No.
I'm bringing it back. I'm wearing.
Salmon hats are the latest trend hitting the orca set. Orcas wearing salmon hats. Why? Orcas bring back dead salmon hat trend. What is with the orcas wearing dead salmon hats? See what AI says. Some killer whales, specifically southern resident orcas, have been observed carrying dead salmon on their heads, a behavior sometimes referred to as wearing salmon hats. Reasons for this behavior are unclear, but scientists have offered several possibilities. A fad or social trend, similar to how human trends emerge and disappear. Orcas are known to adopt temporary behaviors. Playful behavior. Orcas are highly intelligent and social animals, and carrying the salmon might be a form of play, especially among younger individuals. A social symbol or communication.
It's not what I'm.
The orcas may be using the salmon as a symbol, although specific meanings remain unknown. Food sharing or storage. This is all very silly.
Yes, but it's
It's
not.
not as silly as it could be.
Uh,
So what was the assertion?
it happened before. So it was a sign for like, 'cause it happened in the 80s or something before. It happened like 40 years ago or something.
Where's the Inuits? The Inuits could tell us.
Yeah, for real, right?
Oh, these crazy old Indians, they don't know anything. Oh, yeah, they do. Yeah, they actually know way more than we do. We should have not stopped them burning. We should have left them alone. We should have learned from them. It's just giving more bullshit that it's already given me. There's a song about it.
Yeah.
Random internet bullshit. Lots of internet bullshit. Why are they?
I can't. Well, I'll have to find it. I'll find it again because it was on Twitter, so you know that's got to be credible, right?
It has to be true.
It has to be true.
Majestic.
But yeah, the orca hat fad is back. That's anyway. Supposedly, like the last time it happened was either war or some magnetic event or I don't know something. I mean, the more probable the more probable explanation is that food is plentiful and it's a fad or whatever. But even still, at that level, uh, think about it. A fad amongst orcas. Orcas are smart.
Yeah.
Orcas are coordinated and they hunt.
They're known to play with their food. This could be more of that. But like you said, the probability of them, like, how are they keeping it there? In 1987, orcas had a fashion of wearing a dead salmon as a hat. For one summer only, a strange trend spread around several pods. Orcas are unlikely subject to memes at the moment after a number of attacks on boats in Europe had led experts to believe that they were teaching calves how to target the rudder and stop vessels. Did you hear about that? I remember that. Mainly focused on
I remember that, yeah.
organized pun. The idea of orcas rising up against humans as killer whales being communists. Of course they are. Around 30 killer whales were spotted in Monterey Bay over the weekend with no clear explanation of why so many gathered. They were beginning to organize. Wah, 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 says George Chakai. Orcas themselves are not immune from memes and cultural trends. Dead salmon hat trend of 1987. In Puget Sound, one female orca, K-Pod, began carrying dead salmon around on her nose. Over the next 5 to 6 weeks, the behavior spread. By the end of it, orcas from her own and 2 other pods were wearing the dead salmon hats. Then all of a sudden, it was over.
That's hilarious, man. See, we don't give animals near as much credit as we should, honestly.
Oh, I think a lot of that's our own hubris. We want to believe that we're special. We're fancy. We're the shiniest boys. Shiny, sparkly boys. We're so smart. We're so different. Dolphins have bigger brains. Most of the animals are faster and tougher and stronger.
Did you see where they dissected the dolphin language and found patterns? Suggesting that there's actually a dolphin language. Actually, I think they've been working on trying to decode the dolphin language.
That's something that AI should be pointed at. Dolphins, orcas, whales.
I think it's already pointed at.
Should be. The only thing is like having a bunch of random
That's gonna
noises
be a
without
big
having the
step.
behavioral correlation is meaningless.
But it's not random. It's not random.
Well,
That's the whole
no,
point.
there's patterns, but if
no.
you don't see the corollary behavior, it doesn't matter, right? So if you're in the ocean and you hear the sound, but you don't know what's happening, it doesn't. It's like if you hear the word jet over and over, without realizing, without seeing somebody point at a jet, you don't know what the fuck jet means. Does that make any sense?
Okay. No, you're right. So yes. So this just came out in April of this year. Artificial intelligence. Google is using artificial intelligence
Yay.
to decode the dolphin, and it's called Dolphin Gemma. Dolphin GEMMA, and they're training an artificial intelligent model on the dolphin language.
Yay. I think we're going to be shocked like a lot. I think dolphins, orcas, and most of the whale species. I think we're going to be shocked like a fucking lot.
So long. And
For all the
thanks
fish,
For all
you
the
know?
fish.
We're going to be like, oh shit.
We're not so special.
Yeah. Mice were running the whole fucking show. Interdimensional mice.
The whole
The
time.
whole time. The answer really was 42. Damn it.
I think my favorite thing from that is whenever the missiles get turned into a whale and a pot of
Yep.
petunias.
It's coming at me. It's called
And the pot of
round.
petunias.
I think I'll call it ground. Not again.
I wonder if it wants to be
Yeah.
friends. Yeah, and then the pot of petunias says, "Oh
Not
no,
again.
not again." It said that much could be understood about the universe if we'd only understood why. That's what the pot of petunias thought. Oh no, not again.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a pretty good movie.
Hey, I keep a towel.
Stay calm. Carry a towel. Towels are friggin' handy. A towel and
They really are.
a towel, a pocket knife. If you have a pocket knife and fire, you can pretty much do anything. Pocket knife, fire, and plastic? Fuck. Life is. If you have pocket knife, fire, plastic, and a pot, shit. Add rope, dude, you are living. Living.
You don't even need to add rope because with a pocket knife you can
Yeah.
make rope.
That's what I said. If you got fire, pocket knife.
There's
and
really
plastic.
not like if you've ever taken survival class or if you've ever watched the survival stuff, going from sharp instrument, the knife to fire and rope and all these other things is really not that hard.
No.
It really is. It's just a matter of
Staying
information,
calm,
really. Like
getting focused, prioritizing, and taking action. That's pretty much it.
staying alive in the woods is a lot like not drowning, and it boils down to not panicking.
Yeah, not panicking and knowing what to do next.
Yeah.
Order of priorities.
They teach you calorie budgeting.
Yeah.
So you don't ever want to expend calories on something that doesn't return calories or progress your escape/survival.
Escape, return to civilization if at all possible. Number one, fucking period. If that's not possible, start finding water. Once you have water, start finding shelter unless you're living in an extremely temperate climate with no predators. If you're in an extremely temperate climate with no predators, you've got water, then start working on food, then shelter. But water, that one's really fucking important. Which water and fire generally go hand in hand. Because you can't.
Water and fire are tough. Can't be tough.
Without fire, most water is not drinkable. You can drink it, but you'll get the giardia and you'll shit yourself to death.
right? Then you start expending calories. And once you become low calories, you're it's a
Rapid downhill
compound and move
trajectory.
downward
Yeah.
from there.
You can go 3 days without water, 40 days without food, but you can't go 40 days without food in a diuretic state. I have a
Yeah,
bad
no,
case
for
of
sure.
diarrhea.
They, 3 3 3, 3 minutes without
Yeah,
oxygen, 3 days without water, and 30 days without food kill you.
yeah.
And I think it's like there's another one that goes after that, but I can't remember.
3 weeks is probably more accurate than 30 days. I think in an actual survival situation, because you calorie burn, because you have to self-regulate your body temperature and everything else. I think it's probably less than 40 days, less than 30 days. Realistically, functionally, it's probably like 2 weeks.
Well, most people there, because of the type of food that they sustain themselves with, their blood sugars and all that different stuff gets so out of whack in the first
Yeah,
week
they're pretty well fucking
that
dead.
it gets,
Well, that and
yeah.
the psychological strength required to get
And
through that shit.
yeah, I've been hungry, so I know what it's like to be hungry, but I've never been 30 days hungry.
I've never been 30 days hungry. I've been 10, 12 days hungry. And I've done quite a bit of survival campouts. That was actually my favorite thing in Boy Scouts.
Good talk. I don't know that we got through everything you probably wanted to, and I apologize for that.
No, I think it was good.
But
Going into habits and stuff, I think really should probably be maintained for the next time. And I really should probably break up some of these topic groups. Instead of being comprehensive understandings of situational things, they need to be more bite-sized and comprehensible. Something that we can... The more that I get into this, the more I think it really needs to be like short topic in discussion for intake and uptake and synthesis. Because that's really the goal, right? The goal is not head knowledge for regurgitation. The goal is usable information for synthesis and application. So I think breaking it down into smaller topics that we can then discuss and talk about experiences and examples for better uptake and synthesis, I think is probably be more productive. Instead of like, because so going back to learning and skill acquisition, I am probably a ridiculous glutton when it comes to information. I can dive into a thing and go 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 10, 15, 20, 30, 60 days straight on uptake of information, which I know is not normal. So to me, everything is like very succinct packets of information. You need this set of things to do this thing. This set of things to do this thing. This whole thing is like an example. This is how I learn. That's a perfect thing. These 3 books, I've shown you how I learn. This is how I learn. You can see how I learn.
do you feel like, I mean, I know we talk to each other so much. Do you feel it might be appropriate for us to get together on a Friday evening, Friday afternoon, and pregame the coming topic? Not live, but just maybe get together and see.
Sure. I'm literally just
I know I'm
marching
not
through the book.
something that we commit to, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally open to more than once a week. I'm totally open to like actually starting to take this conversation to the next level, or starting to actually like, I mean, I'm starting to get to some production value. It's just the nascent beginnings of that. But actually like thinking about it and conversing about it, and I'd really love to get some more guests on. I think it'd be wonderful. Like actually learning from people, I think would be fantastic.
that would be
Yeah.
fantastic.
Break down the information into smaller bite-sized chewables. Getting some guests on. Really learning from people. I really like desperately want to start building the community. I know I'm not going to build the community until the community starts building, and I got to build the community. Don't want to force it like we talked about in the interim conversation. But if you're up for it, yeah, I'd totally be down. It's like, and I'm literally just marching through the book. You got a copy of both of them, right? So, yeah.
I do. And I am not following closely with you. I must
It's all right,
admit.
man.
But
I'm literally just marching right through it. So, think about what time would work, and then we can just do it regular, or just like whenever we're available on a Friday night. Hey, bro, what's up? And figure it out.
let's either that or we utilize the Discord page and start posting topics there ahead of time, like we were when we first
Yeah.
started, before we started doing the book.
Well, that's part of the reason I just started marching through the book. There's a lot of times nobody was there, so I just started marching through the book. Because there's like
Right on.
70 something topics there, so there's like a year and a half worth of shit. That,
Well, brother, I think this is a good time for me. I'm gonna motion to close
yeah,
it here.
so moved, seconded.
I'm gonna try to have a bite.
Aye. Have a good week, dude. Love
Aye.
you, brother. Appreciate you.
Love you too, man. Wish me
Good
luck
luck,
tomorrow.
brother. Later.
Yep. Bye.
There's that one.